This podcast contains content related to child exploitation and criminal investigations. Listener discretion is strongly advised. The views expressed are those of the host and do not represent any official agency. All individuals discussed are presumed innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. It's simple. It starts with a hey. Just one word. A new friend request and a profile picture that looks real. A smiling teenager. Same school colors. Maybe even a familiar background. He's lying on his bed scrolling before practice. Homework done. Earbuds in. Just killing time on Snapchat. He answers. One word back. A laughing emoji follows. A short chat, and then a photo that looks like it could have come from anyone his age. In a matter of minutes, the tone shifts. The playful messages become flirty, then bold. Before he knows it, he's being asked for a picture in return, something private, something that makes him pause. He hesitates, but he sends it. And that is when everything changes. The next message isn't friendly, it's a threat. I have your picture. I know your school. If you don't send me money, I will send this to everyone you know. He just stares at the screen. The smile disappears. The heartbeat in his ears drown out every sound in the room. This isn't just a scam. It's extortion. It's sextortion. I'm Sean Lacey, and this is Chasing Shadows. For years, I've worked investigations where the internet was the crime scene. Digital forensics, undercover chats, and online exploitation. I've analyzed devices containing the worst images imaginable. Interviewed offenders who justify their crimes with every excuse you can think of. And sat across from parents who didn't realize their child's nightmare began on a screen inches from their face. But sextortion is different. It's not about a single image or a secret file hidden on a hard drive. It's about control. A predator's ability to weaponize embarrassment, fear, and isolation against the child. It's fast. It's global. And it's devastating. Most people imagine predators going after girls, and that still happens. And those cases remain tragic and real. But today, the overwhelming majority of sextortion victims are teenage boys. They're being targeted by organized criminal networks who want one thing: money. Girls, on the other hand, are often manipulated for continued sexual content, to produce more and more files, to meet in person, and to feed an ongoing cycle of abuse. Different motives, same destruction. In this episode, we'll break down how these cases actually happen, how quickly they escalate, and why they're so different to investigate, and what parents can do to protect their kids. We'll also talk about how these schemes connect to the global exploitation economy with groups like 764 Network, and why the emotional toll can end in tragedy, including the devastation of suicide. Because understanding the threat and getting ahead of it is the only way to stop it. Sextortion isn't new, but the scale we're seeing is unprecedented. In 2024, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children received over 20 million cyber tip reports. Buried in those numbers are hundreds of thousands of cases of sextortion, most involving teenage boys between the ages of 14 and 17. The FBI, Homeland Security Investigations, and local ICAC task forces across the country all say the same thing. This has become the single largest category of online exploitation in the United States. Why do they target boys? Well, because predators know shame can be more powerful than fear. They know that teenage boys often don't talk about their emotions, and they assume, rightly, that if they can make the boy believe his reputation is about to be destroyed, he'll do anything to make it stop. Most of these cases start on platforms like Snapchat, Instagram, or even some gaming chats. The predator creates a fake profile using stolen images from other real teens they've exploited. They send friendly messages to dozens or hundreds of potential victims, waiting for just the right one to respond. Once the conversation begins, the offender mirrors the victim's language, interests, and tempo. They're skilled. They build comfort, flirtation, curiosity. Then they send an explicit image, usually of someone else, and then ask for one in return. And when the victim sends it, the trap they set closes instantly. The threats begin. You send me $200 right now or everyone gets this photo. Send me more pictures or I'll post this on your school page. Some go even further. I know where you live and I know your parents, and I will send this to them as soon as I'm done counting to 3. The offender floods the victim's phone with screenshots of his own friends list, proof that they can expose him. And within minutes, panic sets in. In my county, I've seen the exact pattern play out multiple times this year. Each case looks slightly different, but the core is identical. A boy who believes he's in a private, harmless chat with a girl suddenly faces blackmail from someone who is halfway around the world. One case in particular stands out, involving the son of a county employee. Smart kid, polite kid, active in the community, well liked by his teachers. He thought he was talking to a girl from another state. When the messages turned sexual, he hesitated, but curiosity won, and he sent a photo. Within minutes, he was told to pay money or the image would be sent to his teammates. They even listed the names of 3 friends pulled from his social media followers to prove that they meant business. He froze. But he paid the money. He tried to make it stop, and when it didn't, he finally told his parents. When his dad found out, the shock was real. How did this happen to my son? He was a seasoned professional in the county government. He'd seen trauma unfold weekly, but nothing could have prepared him for this. And that's the reality. These predators don't need to break into homes. They're already there. They get invited in through the devices that you bought, on the internet that you pay for, using an app that both you and your child thought was safe. To understand how massive this has become, you kind of need to understand who's behind it. Most sextortion targets boys, and it's financially driven. The goal isn't the image, it's the money. Offenders operate in teams. One person runs the fake profile, another may handle the chat, and a third monitors and handles all the payment apps. And they do this in shifts, 24 hours a day, across time zones and across the world. These are criminal organizations. Many are based overseas, often in parts of West Africa and some in Southeast Asia. They use scripts, pre-written conversations, and templates that tell them exactly what to say when a victim hesitates. They're salesmen. The so-called 764 network, for example, was a loose collection of online groups that industrialize sextortion. They targeted thousands of American boys, earning millions of dollars through blackmail. Each operator could juggle dozens of victims, dozens of conversations at once, moving from one to another the moment the payment cleared. They keep folders organized by name, age, and school. They trade tactics on encrypted apps like they're running a customer service desk. Girls, meanwhile, are often targeted differently. For them, the predators don't usually want money. Those tactics don't really work. They want continued exploitation. They build long-term trust, convincing girls to produce more content or to meet them in person. They use the files that the girls send to then trap more boys. But when the conversation changes to potential meeting, that's where sextortion crosses into grooming. So while the outcomes differ, financial for boys and continued abuse for girls, the psychologically behind it is identical. Power, control, domination. And once a victim complies the first time, They think the threat is over. But all that does is just ramp up the pressure. Because those predators know how to do two things. They know how to create leverage, and they know how to keep a victim scared. At that point, the demands rarely stop with that single payment. They ask for more, another transfer, more money, or another picture. When the victim pays, they know he'll likely pay again. And when he refuses, the threats just escalate. I'll ruin you. I'll tell your parents. I have your friends list right here. I will post this everywhere. Offenders send screenshots of public posts and contact lists as proof. Sometimes they'll even doctor the images, creating edits that make the victim appear even more explicit, even more sexual. It's psychological warfare, and the goal is to keep the victim frozen between shame and panic, and to keep the money coming. Or for girls, that escalation looks a little different. The abuser typically starts by playing the relationship angle, saying things like, "I thought you loved me," or "If you really trust me, then just send another one." That's what all my previous girlfriends have done. They condition the victims to believe affection is dependent on compliance. And when I've interviewed these girls and asked them why they sent these pictures, they say, it's what a girlfriend sends to her boyfriend. That manipulation can continue for weeks or months, quietly eroding a child's sense of boundaries and safety. Whether it's money or continued content, the predator's advantage is the same: isolation. They rely 100% on the victim's silence. That silence is their camouflage. When the message is stopped, the real damage begins. Each victim describes the same spiral: nausea, fear, insomnia, constant replay of what if everyone sees this. For some, it's manageable with help. For others, the weight feels unbearable, especially once their parents find out. Across the country, law enforcement agencies have linked multiple youth suicides directly to sextortion. In several cases, victims took their own lives within hours of the first threat. They weren't hardened criminals or reckless kids, they were athletes. Honor roll students, sons and daughters who made simple, impulsive decisions and believed it ended their future. That's what makes sextortion uniquely lethal. It turns a moment of curiosity into a lifetime of shame, no matter how short that life is. It convinces a teenager that a single image, a single video, a single mistake is worth dying over. Parents often don't realize what's happening until it's too late, until the damage is done. They see withdrawal, irritability, maybe missing money, and assume it's just typical teenage behavior. Meanwhile, their child is staring at a phone, watching threats roll in from across the world. I've spoken with parents after cases like these, and they all say the same thing. If he'd just told me, we could have handled it. That's the message we need to repeat, that no photo, no mistake is ever worth a life. By the time that a sextortion complaint reaches law enforcement, the first priority is triage. We want the evidence. We secure the screenshots, usernames, payment receipts, anything that the offender left behind. Even small clues like a time zone in a profile or the spelling of a phrase can help narrow down the search. But these are difficult cases, because most of these cases trace back to other countries. Large clusters originate from West Africa. Activity has been seen in the Philippines or even Eastern Europe. These offenders are skilled. They hide behind VPNs, false accounts, and layers of encryption. Some operate from internet cafes, moving between devices and networks faster than subpoenas can travel. The geography makes identification and prosecution even more difficult. When the IP address resolves to another nation, we have to rely on international partners and treaties and hope that they feel the same way about these crimes as we do. Because even when we identify a suspect, extradition is rare. But we can still disrupt the pattern. By reporting to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, By tracing financial transactions, by freezing accounts and working with major payment services, we can cut off revenue streams and help close the doors that these predators use. If we can find a domestic target, the charges are serious. Under Virginia Code, using threats to obtain money and property is extortion. And creating and distributing nude images of another without consent is a felony. And when the victim is a minor, it also falls under the other statutes of child exploitation material. These laws carry heavy penalties, but our biggest weapon is speed. The sooner a report is made, the more likely we can track the digital footprints before they disappear. So why, after years of awareness campaigns, is sextortion still exploding? Well, because it's profitable. It's easy. It's low risk for offenders, and unfortunately in our country, it's a target-rich environment. All the offender needs is a smartphone and an internet connection and stolen photos that they've acquired to build a believable profile. They have tons of time and they can contact hundreds of potential victims every hour. If even 1% respond, they make money. Social media accounts are removed daily when they're known about, but offenders simply create new ones. Each deletion is an inconvenience, but it's not a deterrent. And every new app with private messaging becomes another hunting ground. Remember, these aren't isolated predators. They're part of an economy built on fear. Every image extorted, every dollar transferred, feeds the same machine that fuels larger exploitation markets. That's why sextortion isn't just considered a scam. It's another branch of child exploitation. Every time I speak to parents about sextortion, I can see the same expression. How do I keep this from happening to my kid? The truth is, there's no single setting or app that solves it. Safety comes strictly from awareness and conversation. Like we've talked about before, you have to start by knowing the technology in your house. You have to understand the platforms that your child uses. Not just the name, but the function, how they work. If they use Snapchat, learn how the Snap Map shows location. If they're on Instagram, know that private accounts can still receive message requests. If they game online, realize that voice chat can be just as dangerous as direct messaging. Next, talk early and talk often. The most powerful safety feature you have is a relationship that's built on trust and communication. Make sure your child understands that they can come to you even if they make a mistake. When a kid believes the first call home will bring punishment instead of protection, that's where the predators start to win. When I train parents, I give them a few practical steps, and I'll give them to you today. Disable direct messages from unknown users on all apps. Turn off quick add and similar friend suggestion tools that expose accounts to strangers. Regularly review cash transfer apps for unusual activity. Use parental control tools when possible. We're not trying to spy, but we're trying to understand patterns so we can recognize when something's wrong. Most of all, encourage transparency. Devices commonly live behind closed doors. Encourage that they live in common areas. For certain ages, encourage that they're used in your presence. And just as important, we need to watch for the warning signs. A sudden change in the mood. Anxious glances at a phone. Deleting accounts or staying up later than usual and avoiding their friends. These can all signal something is wrong long before a threat is even made. And if you're a teenager listening to this, understand this very clearly. You are not alone. If someone online threatens you, demands money, or says they'll share pictures unless you do what they want, stop. Don't do anything. Take a screenshot, save the messages, and tell someone that you trust immediately, whether it's a parent, a teacher, a school resource officer, or call the police. You need to understand that you are not in trouble and you're the victim of a crime. That person on the other end of the screen is not your friend. They don't care about your reputation. They don't care about your privacy or your future. All they care about is control and the money. And the moment you bring an adult into the conversation, you take back that control. Even if you've already paid or sent more images, it's still not too late to report it. Most predators keep contacting victims because it works. The silence lets them, and when you speak up, you stop them. Not just for you, but for everyone else that they might target. When we as law enforcement investigate these sextortion cases, especially those tracing to overseas networks, success doesn't always mean handcuffs. Sometimes, if we're lucky enough, we can freeze a bank account before another payment goes through. Sometimes it's coordinating with our federal counterparts to remove entire clusters of accounts from the apps. Sometimes it's just helping a family breathe again by proving that their child's images haven't surfaced online and anywhere else. Unfortunately, the majority of offenders are based outside the United States, oftentimes in countries where the U.S. law enforcement has extremely limited jurisdiction. But that doesn't mean we give up. It means we adapt. It means we share intelligence with international partners. We develop new digital forensic tools and techniques, and we teach families to recognize the red flags before the threat is even made. The fight is global, but defense begins locally. It begins in our homes, schools, and communities. These predators succeed because they exploit basic human emotions. They prey on loneliness, curiosity, and a child's need for validation. For teenagers, attention feels like currency. When someone offers it freely, they respond. It's not a weakness. It's not something to be punished. That's just development. Our job as adults is to balance connection with caution. As parents, we need to stop saying, "Don't talk to anyone online." That's not feasible. Instead, we need to say, if someone new reaches out, let's talk about it. Instead of reacting with anger when mistakes happen, react with empathy. Because empathy opens doors that fear keeps shut. And both parents and teenagers need to remember that these offenders rely on speed. They move from flattery to manipulation in minutes. Education slows that process down. Every second a kid hesitates before sending an image is a second that they might save themselves, or we might help save them. We talked earlier in the episode about the millions of cyber tip reports, and it's easy to lose sight of what exactly those numbers mean. Each report represents a child and a family and a crucial moment where someone's world stopped. Hundreds of thousands of those tips were tied to sextortion. And each one started the same way, with a message, then a picture, and then a threat. It's extremely tempting to think that this happens somewhere else. Man, this only happens in big cities or far off places. But I've worked those cases right here in our county, in small neighborhoods, in neighborhoods that you'd never suspect, behind doors that look exactly like yours. That's why I created this podcast, not to sensationalize, but to humanize. Because when parents understand how real this is, they start asking better questions. And it gives the opportunity for the kids to start giving honest answers. Unfortunately, we can't arrest our way out of sextortion. The internet is far too vast, and offenders too well dispersed. But what we can do is we can educate our way through it. Every parent who learns how these crimes start, every teen who knows what to do when they get that first message, weakens the predator's hold. Those predators thrive on ignorance, and awareness starves them. So keep learning, keep talking, keep sharing. Because somewhere out there, another "hey" just hit someone's inbox. And whether that turns into tragedy or a teachable moment depends on what we do next. If you've listened, thank you for caring enough to understand a problem most people would rather ignore. Believe it doesn't exist. Believe they don't understand it. But sextortion isn't about technology. It's about people. It's about our kids, our neighborhoods, our communities. It's a digital crime with very human victims. If you or someone you know has been targeted, report it. Go to report.cybertipline.org or contact your local law enforcement. And most importantly, talk about it. These predators count on silence, and don't give it to them. I'm Sean Lacey, and this has been Chasing Shadows. Thank you for standing with me in this fight.